Good afternoon. The School Innovation and Turnaround Committee is called to order. May I please have a roll call vote? Roll call.
Dr. Bolte?
Present.
Dr. Warren is present. Ms. Castillo? Here. Mr. Castillo is present. Dr. Davis?
Here.
Dr. Davis is present. Ms. Ellis?
Here.
Ms. Ellis is present. Mr. Garvey?
Here.
Mr. Garvey is present. Ms. Holloway? Ms. Holloway is present. Mr. Melbury? Mr. Melbury is present. Mr. Morris? Mr. Morris is present. Ms. Warren Jones?
Present.
Ms. Warren Jones is present. Mr. Rock?
Here.
Mr. Rock is present. And Roche is not present. You have what you want.
Thank you. May I please have the first item?
Mr. Garvey.
Yes, I would like to move that we take items 3.1 and 2.6 out of order in that order.
Second.
Can I have a motion? Okay, motion Dr. Davis, second. That was the second. Okay. Great. Can I have any board discussion on this item? Any, would you like to, is there anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, we're going to do 3.1. Your first item is on page 159, item 3.1, consideration of an update report regarding the transfer process for Capitol High School to the East Baton Rouge Parish School System. The recommendation is to receive.
Great. Motion, please.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Morris, second by Dr. Bolte. Superintendent.
Thank you, Mr. Michelle. So this particular item is relative to decisions that the board made at our previous meeting regarding RSD, LDOE, Capital Foundation, EBR. So a lot of different entities at play here that we have to get right in terms of transition for ultimately children and the community as well. Tried to work, had worked with Dr. Narcisse on this, and we have had discussions. We have had a public process at Capitol for public to give input. That mattered a lot to me, and it mattered a lot to our team to hear that. But before we go into the details of Dr. Narcisse's potential plans for the school, I want to allow for Mr. Day on our team to open this up, just on what the transition would look like. And then at a certain point within this presentation, we will transfer over to Dr. Narcisse so that Dr. Narcisse can present where he is in terms of his planning. And then we can also look at next steps between the various boards who have to make decisions. So.
Mr. Day.
Excellent, thank you. We are working on getting the presentation up on the screen. Bessie members, can you see the Capitol High transition plan? You have it. All right, well then we will just start there, and as soon as this is up there, we'll be ready to go. But to pick up where Dr. Bromley left off, in June, this board instructed us to bring back a plan for the transition of Capitol High School. It is our understanding that the intent of the board was that Capitol High School would transition back to EBR in the 23-24 school year. With that information in mind, we went back to precedent. We looked at what we've done in the past in RSD in terms of returning a school to local districts. We'll talk about the framework that came out of that. But before that, we had to do our research on what are the actual steps that need to happen. That would be slide 3 in your guys' packet. We're looking at this across a 3-month time span. Saying in August, on the 17th, the LDE hosted a community forum at Capitol High to gather input from community members, alumni, students. Today, on the 23rd, we're proposing our transition plan. And as you may or may not be aware, when a school is transferred back from the RSD to the local jurisdiction, Bessie has the authority to impose stipulations and conditions on that return. So we will also be talking through what the department is recommending those stipulations and conditions be. In September, the East Baton Rouge Board and Dr. Narcisse are going to be discussing the plan for the return of Capitol and the future of academic programming at Capitol High. That is slated for the 15th of September. And then in October, the board needs to host, this board needs to host a public hearing to gather input regarding the return of Capitol High and then the plan plan currently is that this board would vote to return the school or would vote relative to the return in October. Slide 4 shows the framework for the school closure and transfer process. This was adopted by Bessie in 2013, and it outlines all of the roles and the responsibilities for all of the parties involved in a situation like this. It defines what LDOE and Bessie's responsibilities are, it defines what the local and the receiving school district's responsibilities are, and it outlines what the exiting operator's responsibilities are. From there, the LDE created a transformation checklist. This is basically where we take that transformation framework and we break these tasks down into a week-by-week task list that makes sure that we can very strongly close out the operations of the school currently, transfer that information to the new operator, and make this as seamless as possible in the event of a return. As I mentioned, on August 17th, we hosted a community forum at Capitol High School. We had nearly 100 people attend. 23 participants created a brief survey. All were given the opportunity. However, 23 folks gave us their information there. 17 individuals provided public comment, and I'm excited about the diversity of voices that we heard. We had 3 students stand up and kind of advocate for what they would like to see for the future of Capitol. We had 11 alumni members, we had 2 community members, and then 1 current staff member at Capitol High. Speaking of that data, we'll go through the quantitative data that we collected in kind of a straw poll. But if you guys are interested in the comments and the general frame of the public comments, Appendix B of this presentation lists the highlights of what our speakers have to say. So, moving forward, we asked the folks at the community forum 5 very quick questions. The first was that all current students at Capitol High, let me back up, we asked them to rate the degree to which they agreed or disagreed with these statements. These statements mirror things that we believe are very important as a department that will eventually inform those conditions and stipulations that we'll discuss momentarily. But those 5 questions, all current students at Capitol High School must be allowed to complete their high school career at Capitol High School and must be allowed to do so on their chosen graduation pathway. We saw 100% of participants agree. Mind you, that's 23 participants. The second was all current employees must be given the opportunity to interview for future positions at Capitol High School in the East Baton Rouge Parish school system. Again, 96% of respondents agreed with that. The third, the East Baton Rouge Parish School Board must commit to improving the Capitol High School facility. 87% agreed. The fourth, regardless of future academic programming at Capitol High, East Baton Rouge Parish must commit to maintaining an open enrollment pathway for neighborhood students. This is not something that's just important to us in the DOE, but time and time again, we've heard this from community members and folks that want to see good things for the future of Capitol. And then finally, we asked, should Capitol High School be returned to East Baton Rouge Parish School Board for the 2023-2024 school year? And again, the majority of folks agreed with 70% agreeing with that statement. Using that information, in addition to understanding the role of this board and the LDE with regard to oversight of Capitol High once a return or once a decision to return has been made, we created the following stipulations and conditions. The first, I'm not going to read it again, it's exactly those 5 questions that we just discussed, with the 5th condition being slightly different, that the East Baton Rouge School Board must vote to receive Capitol High School in acknowledgement of these stipulations, conditions, and commitments. So again, those stipulations, the first is that all current students should be allowed to finish their high school career at Capitol on the chosen pathway that they're currently. Second, current employees must be given an opportunity to interview for future positions at Capitol and New York. Third, we know that there are facility concerns at Capitol High School that must be addressed. Fourth, regards to that future program at Capitol, we will maintain an open enrollment pathway. My team has been in contact with Dr. Narcisse's team. It's actually been an excellent collaboration in my opinion. I think a lot of people expected this to be very tense. I know there's a lot of meeting left, so I hope it doesn't go that way. But at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to my colleague, Dr. Narcisse, to outline his vision for the future of Caddo.
Yes, this definitely will not be tense.
Welcome, Dr. Narcisse.
Thank you so much. First, I just want to thank Dr. Brumley's team. I know the Bessie board just for allowing us the opportunity. Dr. Brumley's team was did a great job working with us. We love it when we collaborate to deliver things, so I just wanted to make sure that Dr. Bump and the team were prepared for that. I just also want to acknowledge today I have here with me the board president, David Tappan here, and as you know, we have 9 board members and I have 5 of us here with me, so the majority of our board is actually here. Also, you know, we also have community folks here, we've done council and other folks. We've been working collectively together as a community to not only bring back capital, but also to make sure that we are doing right by children in this community, which we feel is really, really important to move this work forward. I'm going to highlight just a few things as we go through the presentation. Max gave you a lot of the high level stuff. I'll give you, try to address many of the questions that the Betsy board members had in the last meeting to make sure we get to that and answer any questions you may have. And also, if there's anything, we also have a counselor here with us if there's any additional thing you need to know from us. So if you have a clicker.
We're happy to click for you.
Oh, that'll work. Thank you. So, as you heard, Max shared, you know, we put a timeline together with action steps that are there. Those action steps we shared at the beginning of the time in our original presentation to you about how we saw the transition from Caddo. As you know, we went out to the community similar to what Dr. Brumley did and team to speak to folks. I think there was a large amount when LDOE went out. We had also a large amount when we went out as well to also with different groups of folks. As you know, there's an alumni association and there's other different community stakeholders out there. So it was good to see the community engaging into wanting to bring the school back. We also mimic the timeline, as you see in the action step, pretty close and similar to what you have. You have the dates, you know, we have, after your decision today, we will bring back to our the board, Board President and I will be putting that on the agenda for, we have a CAL, which is on September 18th, or committee of the whole, and September 15th, the board will vote to, on the action item to receive the school back into our school system. And then as you go to the end, you'll see that our goal will be to do a transition, so it'll be a transition year with CEF to fully go through and the 5 conditions that we think are very favorable to execute on returning to school. Our goal is not only that the school returns, but that the community connects with the return, and more importantly, they feel that we're doing this in collaboration. It's really important for us, for the community to be a part of this. You may or may not know, but President Tappan was the board president when the Betsy board at that time agreed to return to Struve High School. So we looked at some of the transition that was there. He's very familiar with that process, so this helps a lot as we work with our board in that process. A couple of things that we are pretty clear on and agree with you guys around improving student achievement. That's a very clear goal. We talked about pathways, and one of the questions that were up was about what would be the pathways at Caddo High School. We don't agree that, we agree that the pathway should be more than just one. One of the pathways you look like was medical pathway. You'll see on there, we also talked about technology pathway because we really want to get kids as quickly as possible to industry-based certifications at the school. And also the last one we call it our liberal arts pathway, which is one of our 5 pathways. It's just kind of a catch-all for kids to be in any pathway that they'd like to be in. We have that structure and set up as we're transforming all of our high schools in PBR in that way. So we do not see that there's a challenge in that area. We are really adamant about the focused choice model because that is the transformation that we're doing across all high schools in our city. We believe that Baton Rouge has tremendous potential with industry here. It's not just good enough for us for kids to get high school degrees, but they have to get jobs. And those jobs should be around industry-based certifications, similar to what Betsy Board has pushed on when you look at what's it called? Sorry. Wow.
What are you asking about?
The pathway to
Fast forward.
fast forward. Thank you. Thank you. I'll go blank there. But yes, very similar. The difference that you notice in the model with us is that we want to introduce those pathways earlier in the process because we believe that kids are growing into their strengths and into those pathways that they want to do. But also there's on-ramps and off-ramps in that process. And so Caddo High School would be in that same approach. We won't go into detail of this, but this is just a sample of what kids can do if they decide to go to medical and premium pathway. I just want to highlight a few things. We're educating our community about industries. People don't think about, but like industries, like a hospital is actually like a little city. They have everything in there, like from technology to kids doing adults doing so many different things. I think sometimes people think of medical as only doctors and nurses, but there are machines, there's all type of stuff. And so, and there's also a workforce speaking. That's really important. Laura Tenero, who's the CEO of Baton, he could not be here for another meeting, but he would also share that with you around that work. Next one. We're also going to advance technology. Our goal has been, no matter what the technology is, children should not only get pass a class, but they need certification in that technology so they can have the opportunity to get those jobs. And also, we're really pushing hard for the children want to go for advanced credentialing, whether it's college or career, and we give them advantages for by the time they graduate high school, they will have those advantages. Click the next one. And then this is the liberal arts management, which there's more categories than what we're showing you. But this is for anything that the child wants to do, and the parents to go into that. What's important for us that we are pushing is to make sure that children have opportunities for English-based certification. It's important that they get those credentials as they go through, and also internships. We've already started piloting internships in EBR, where we're paying kids $15 an hour. We're starting off for our seniors this year. Our goal is to kind of move that all the way down to spring semester for sophomores so they can work there. And I know we compete a little bit with Starbucks and those other folks, but we think putting kids in a track where they can get paid to learn is a really good thing. As you know, Amazon's coming to a theater soon, so we plan on competing with them as well. How will EBR address the LDOE recommendations? So as I shared a little bit, current Cap High School students will be allowed to complete their high school career and chosen pathway. Our goal is to enhance the academic programming here. We think with the work that we have, we can put more into the school in that process and also provide pathways that way. Also, we want to make sure that there's a model of customer service that we're allowing parents to be able to navigate through that process. So we're wanting to make sure that that happens. And even with the transition, we do not want any families to feel there's an us or them process, but they feel like this is their school and their community. Operational, these are all pillars of our strategic plan. And we have 4 cornerstones in our strategic plan. That's what you see. That's up there. We actually also have a scorecard that once capital becomes a part of the community, we'll be also monitoring in that space for them to be working through that scorecard to ensure that we're accomplishing the various KPIs. KPIs and fancy word for performance objectives that we keep with any school that's in our school system, whether you're charter type 1 or a traditional school. Partners that we're trying to make sure there's accountability for the entire school system. How will we improve the facilities? Currently, right now, myself, President Tapman, and our general counsel are in discussions right now with a partner concerning wanting to change that building. We believe the building needs to be brand new, and so we're in discussions with them right now in that process. And so that's where we are right now. Our goal is to retain all the legacy programs at Caddo. Caddo has had a long history around sports, bands, those things. Our goal is not only to make sure that those stay, but also we can grow the enrollment in the process with our new programs. We believe will bring many families to Caddo. And we're also working on helping to support and revitalize the community. We think it's not only just a school thing, but also how do you help support that community. This is the interest that you see from all the other industry partners. We think Caddo is one of the oldest communities in Baton Rouge. We think there's a lot of opportunity that's here that we can do a lot of other things.
All right, that takes us back to our next steps. Of course, we're here to have a discussion about this. We're here to answer any questions that you have. Before we jump into that, just want to orient you with the information that you have. Included with the backups is this presentation, the framework that I discussed earlier, outlining the roles and responsibilities of each of the parties. And then within this packet itself, obviously you've seen what we presented so far, as well as Dr. Narcissa's plan. Appendix A outlines performance data And I just want to call out a couple of points about that data. There are 3 comparison schools that we chose. That's Bel Air, Broadmoor, and Terra High School. Those were chosen because those are the other open enrollment schools that students would otherwise attend. We also showed that data compared to EBR and the state. I think it's also important to know that we were asked for more years of data, I think all the way back to 2008. But after we looked at this and looked at the changes to the accountability systems that have changed over time, to really have a valid comparison, 2017, 2018 is the most appropriate data to look at starting from there. That was the last major shift that we had in our SPS calculations. Another thing to note in the following slides, the district-wide totals and statewide totals include all schools, including our selective admission schools. The EBR totals do not include the Recovery School District totals. It's just EBR without those schools that are in the Recovery School District. As you all know, there is no data available for 1920 due to the onset of COVID. And then lastly, as we are all very aware, the SPS scores that we published last year are just for comparative purposes. They are not for evaluative purposes, but we felt that it was important to include that information in this packet as well. Lastly, Appendix B has all of the speaker comments. Those are not direct quotes. Those are just notes taken by LDE staff throughout the forum. And so with that, I will pause and see if there are any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the robust presentation. Board members, are there any questions at this time? There are a few public comments. Dr. Davis?
Can you tell me, so there are about 400 students enrolled now with a capacity of 1,300. What is the current facility in its current condition capable of serving? Is it that full 1,300 or are some of the buildings unusable?
So based on my understanding, the facility should hold 1,300, but the reality, Dr. Davis, is it's in a very poor shape. I recall when I came to Baton Rouge and went to visit that campus, and I do believe some of you did come to visit when I went there. It's in a deplorable shape. And at that time, there was a different structure and operator at that time. But to answer your question, 1,300 is about 400 students here now.
And my next question is, so the plan that is going to go before your board, is that going to entail more detail than what we got? So in terms of who is the funder that's planning the new facility? And so, I mean, my question would be, just in thinking about this, is the school district going to have to enter into a long-term lease with this funder? Are you going to have to give them the property? As a taxpayer in East Baton Rouge Parish, I want to know answers to those questions, and as a CIC member. And I'd also like to, know the answer whether or not the district is planning to direct run the school. Are you planning to use a charter management company to run the school? And so I understand not having the answer to all of those questions for us today, but I hope that when it goes to your board and then when it comes back to us, that we're going to have some of those answers.
Thank you, Dr. Davis, and Chair, members of BESI. We are in conversations. I'm trying to think of all of your questions, okay? And it's interesting being on this side of the table. I don't think we have the ability to give a life away. So the property that is on, so I don't see that as any part of any conversation we have. What we're trying to do is find or create a mechanism by which we can create some facilities there that students deserve and that families deserve, and bring back that proud tradition of capital for a community who really wants it, just like the stream, just like our experience with the stream when we built it and they came. That's our plan. These discussions are very intense. We've been working with a number of groups, and in order to not sabotage what we're trying to do, that's why we're not, it's not that we're trying to hide anything, but we want to get a little further down the road in the conversations and discussions. I would say to you, my answer is that my point is I am one board member, and I have a few behind me, but we're not going to do a board issue here. But I would say it would be direct run, that would be my sense of what the board wants, and I think that's where we are. I think there could be some other components relative to perhaps a community committee that would work with us, but we really want to bring this school back to the community, and we want the community involvement. And so there were some other questions. I think I got 3 of them.
You got them. And so when is the next EBR tax plan up for a vote? I know it's a ways off, it's a lot.
I think 7 or 8 years.
7 or 8 years.
Yeah, we're very early into it. Yes.
Okay.
I think we're in year 2 right now. So you're talking about 8 years.
Okay. And I just, I attended the community forum, and there was a remarkable amount of consistency between the individuals that came and sat for hours and hours at the Bessie meeting, and with the comments that we heard. And so continuing to have neighborhood access was crucial. And also there was a great deal of love and respect for the staff who are currently educating at Capitol High. And so I appreciate the opportunities that they might have to continue to serve that neighborhood, because their dedication was apparent.
So Dr. Davis, of the 5 components that you all put out there, I'm just one board member. I have an issue with any of those, and I don't think anyone on our board would.
Great, thank you. Other board members comment? Great, okay, we have 2 public comment cards. Thank you very much. George Franks from Capital Alumni Association. Wishes to speak.
Morning, gentlemen. I just want to recognize Justin Blanchard and Principal Irwin in the back, who are there at school every day, continue to serve kids during the transition as part of the group that has responsibility of oversight and operations at school. And I also want to point out when we held our community forum there, these 2 individuals along with their team were very accommodating to us and helpful to us to be able to successfully pull off community forum. So I just want to thank them in the back for that.
Great, thank you. And again, Mr. Francis, I'm sorry to late in the day. My apologies. Go ahead.
Again, my name is George Francis.
Yes.
My name is George Francis, and I'm a member of the Capital Alumni Association, graduate of Capitol High School 1970. And what I want to say is the following. The path we're on is littered with rocks and stones. Those that do not want to do the heavy lifting to ensure the long-term survival of Capitol wants to take the path of least resistance and accept whatever agreement is placed in front of them without it being properly vetted. It is the nature of some of us to submit and commit to this course of action. However, those with willpower are willing to do what is best for the long term, while those that seek a solution for expediency are preoccupied with obtaining a solution or obtaining the solution itself. They get swept up in wanting to accomplish something that they feel that they fail to see, and they fail to see the long-term circumstances or consequences of their short-sighted agreements and with no substance. Let's not let our collective desire to see Capitol High School return to EBR that we disregard our common sense. Some are under the illusion that if this is accomplished, then the means to effect change is possible. But that is not operating in the real world. Let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's not take a step back from the positive and meaningful changes that currently are taking place for a promise of a seat at the table to effect change in the future. A couple of things that I heard is, one, brand new. In my understanding, brand new means the school's going to be torn down and rebuilt. If that's the case, that might be fine, but we need to vet that to make sure that that is the case. The current student body, 400 students, that's approximately correct. Might be a little bit less, but then again, you've got schools that have 400 or 500 students that are brand new schools. Brand new schools. So we're still on par with it. I didn't hear anything on STEMs, and what I did hear was more along the lines of a VOTEC school. The medical focus school sounds great, but I think it is more on the lines of a VOTEC school, and because I did not hear anything on STEMs, the part that goes along with educating the students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Dr. James Finney.
Thank you. I appreciate Dr. Narcise's efforts to return Capital High School to local control, and those 5 conditions look remarkably sensible. I am extremely skeptical as to some of his plans with the focus choice and the partnership with Baton Rouge General and his plans for the real estate. However, those are issues for the local school board to discuss. It's clear that the RSD is an experiment that needs to end. You as a board and Bessie have no business controlling schools covering a patch of North Baton Rouge. The current arrangement for one school in Shreveport and Capital High appears to me to be improper, if not illegal. They are neither charter schools nor directly run, haven't been for years, and I am grateful that that experiment should be coming to a crashing halt with those 5 perfectly reasonable conditions in place. So, I would hope that the 5 board members sitting behind me and their colleagues who for some reason are not here would direct Dr. Narcise to an appropriate use of that facility, a sensible way of getting the facilities upgraded without selling our collective community's soul to some real estate speculator. And that then, when it comes back to Bessie, you would approve returning that school and think about how most expediently to close down the failed experiment with the RSD and return all of those schools to local democratic control.
Thank you. Ms. Karanda Corley, please. And then Mr. Jack Corral.
Good evening. Hopefully this is the last time I come up before you guys tonight. I'm all in favor of Capital High returning back to the EDR school system being a traditional public school. In fact, I actually would like for Celerity, Dalton, and Lanier to return back to EDR as a traditional public school too. And then they would allow us the opportunity to implement a sustainable community school model, because one of the things that everybody stated at the meeting on last Wednesday about Capital High is how rich it was for the children in the community to be able to walk right over to Capital High and then walk across the street and work a job at Louisiana Department Workforce. That is something that Capital High used to do many, many years ago, and that is something that we would like to have come back. But also we would like those children that are going to Park Elementary and Capital Elementary to be able to matriculate to Capital Middle and then come to Capital High. So therefore, we're instilling into them the richness and value of the community and that love. See, once you have people that live in a community, invest into that community, then you have something that is stable. And right now, what we have not had was the stability. This would also allow the children with disabilities that live in that community to not actually have to be bused across Baton Rouge. As you know, right now, our children with disabilities are bused for over an hour. Some children are getting on buses as early as 4:30 and not arriving to school until 8 o'clock. I'm asking and I'm begging that you allow East Baton Rouge Parish school system the ability to not only take Capital High, but actually if you're able to get funding to EDR, to actually make that a reality so that it is accessible for all, we gladly and gratefully would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hello, board members. My name is Jack Harrell. I'm a 1981 graduate of Capitol High, and I'm also a member of the Capitol High Alumni Association. I 100% support the return of Capitol High School back to East Baton Rouge Parish. Well, what I was going to say, I'm a 1977 graduate of Park Elementary, and I'm also a 1981 graduate of Capitol. So what's good about this plan is, and what I've been complaining about for years, is that at Capitol we did not have a feeder school. There was no feeder system. So basically, ninth graders came from different places. We didn't know where they were coming from. Now, obviously, when I went, there was a community system. Well, under this present plan with East Baton Rouge Parish, they already have their medical focus academy started at Park Elementary. So, and now it started off as a 1 through 1st through 6th grade. They're actually going to add they got a 7th grade this year, then it's going to go to an 8th grade. So the ultimate goal is to have a feeder system where the kids could come to Capitol High. And also what could happen with that doesn't stop us from getting kids from other schools, from other middle schools. So that's one of the things I like about the plan. But just some, history. In 1956, there was Davis versus East Baton Rouge Parish School Board. That was the DSEG plan. So now, fast forward to 1982, when Judge John Parker came up with his court order. Well, 2 of the historically black high schools, which was McKinley and Scotlandville, they both got programs out of that court order. McKinley got the Gifted and Talented program. Scotlandville got the Magnet program, which part of that was the engineering program. Capitol at that time didn't really get nothing, so we continued to function as a regular community school, which we didn't have a problem with that. Fast forward to 2008. That's when the state of Louisiana came in and took Capitol from East Baton Rouge Parish. Well, now 2022. Yeah, that's the year we're in. 2022. Basically, now East Baton Rouge Parish is finally stepping up, and what I was asking for in the 90s was give us some kind of program to attract kids to us, because what was happening in Capitol, we were losing our best and brightest kids based on school choice. They were going to other schools. We needed some kind of program, and finally East Baton Rouge Parish is coming up with a program. I'm in full support of this program, and basically I support it, so that's all I can say.
Thank you. Mr. Darius Lannis, please, and then Mr. Keaton.
Thank you, Board. I have the distinct honor of speaking in 2 different, I guess you would say, roles. I speak from a school board member, as District 2 school board member, and I also speak as the executive director for the 100 Black Men in Metro Baton Rouge. While this meeting has less to do with the latter, I think it is important to talk about history, because history gives us context. It's been 13 years. It's been 13 years since this school was taken over by the state. And I know you all did it for a particular reason, and you had to and you needed to. What I can tell you is this: nothing has transpired since that time that has led us to believe that this school is better off now than it was then. My organization took this school over in 2010. We couldn't turn it around. Friendship came in, they took it over for about 5 years. They couldn't turn it around. The Capitol Foundation now has a school, and they cannot turn it around, because we now see that without district-wide interventions, you cannot turn schools of these calibers around. What I can tell you is this: with a focused choice component at that school, you can turn it around. I'll give you what happened at Glen Oaks High School. In fact, the U.S. Secretary of Education, I think that's his last time, he came down from Washington, D.C., inside the school. He saw the model And he said, this needs to be replicated across our country. We're trying to replicate this across our community because we know that it works. 93% of the students are now on track to graduate with an associate's degree in one hand and a diploma in the other hand. And we did it at Glen Oaks, a school that was virtually on the verge of being taken over too. Also, we can do it at Caddo. The partners are there. The community wants to see that it comes back. It is by far past time. I think you just heard the historian for Capitol High School. I call him the historian for the area because he just has all of the history. But if you hear what the people have been saying for so long, they never received the magnet component, yet they still strive and try to do and work with what they had. Now they need our help. But before we can implement anything, the ball is in your court. I can tell you this as a school board member, what I'm going to do. I'm going to absolutely support this. Because at the end of the day, this is not about adults. It's not about us. It's not about you, with all due respect. It's about the kids. And the thing you have to ask yourself is, would you send your kids to that school the shape that it's currently in? In the past 5 years, would you have sent your child to that school in the shape that it's currently in? In the past 15 years, would you have sent your child, your grandchildren, or your niece or your nephews to that school in the current condition that it's in? And if your answer is no, I just simply say, let's make a change tonight. This is the first time you've seen the school district come before you where we can actually collaborate around what is best for community, what is best for kids, and what is best for teachers as it regards bringing back a school. I just ask you all to do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to clarify, just so we're clear too, thank you, Mr. Lennis, for your point, your very thoughtful point. This board at the last meeting set in motion a process to begin the return process. So we've already had robust discussions in that regard in line with what you just said. Thank you. Mr. Dunn.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, Bessie Board members, for giving me an opportunity to speak. I too sit here before you in two capacities. One is a Capitol High School alumni, graduate class of 1995, and also the Capitol High School Alumni Association president. But I'm also a Metro Council member for District 6 in East Baton Rouge Parish. I'd also like to recognize my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem, Metro Councilperson Cole, who also represents the district that Capitol High School sits in. Ms. Jones, Ms. Bofey, Mr. Garvey, you guys have been here the longest. You guys have seen this transition and seen the conflict between the state and the local district. I must say for me, in observing for that long time, this is the first time that we've been able to get all stakeholders in the room to have a conversation. That's been quite difficult over the years. So first I'd like to take my hat off to the superintendent, to Max, to Tammy, to Superintendent Caddo and his team, and everybody just collaborating around this idea and having a conversation. With constructive criticism, everybody not necessarily on the same page, but what we have seen with this conversation and collaboration is the plan has gotten better. The input from community, the input from students, the input from you guys, all of that you see has been taken into account. When we first saw this and heard the idea to go back to Capitol, we was excited. A plan was presented. He heard from us, the superintendent did, his team heard from us, heard from you guys, and the plan has evolved based on that feedback from you guys, from students, from community members. So it's been a total collaboration. So I just want to take a moment to recognize that this has been a total collaboration and everybody's been operating in good faith, and I think that speaks volumes here. The other thing I'd like to say is we submitted over 5,000 signatures to you guys at the last meeting from Capitol, alumni, community members, faith-based, desiring for the school to be returned back to the district. Over 1,000 people from our community emailed you with the same sentiments. And when Superintendent Caddo had his community meeting, and when Superintendent Brumley had his meeting, same sentiments. The community wants to return back to the local control of the East Baton Rouge Parish school system. Again, thank you for your time, thank you for collaboration, and I look forward to working with you guys to continue this process.
Thank you. That concludes public comment. Board members, any additional comments, questions? Mr. Morris.
Thank you.
Superintendent Narcisse, could you help me out with a couple of questions? So as you know, you and I chatted after the town hall meeting in the school gym last week, and the thing that always stands out to me on this topic is just how passionate the community is about the school, and the legacy, the proud legacy that they have at the school with a quality product that's sustainable. So I appreciate all of Councilman Dunn's comments. What I'm seeing today relative to the last time we met here is, you got significant presence of your board here. Doesn't seem to me to be near as contentious of an issue as it was last time. I noticed there were a few changes in your presentation, which I appreciate, but to address all the concerns that were raised at the town hall meeting, I had a couple of questions I want to follow up on just to get clarification. So one of the concerns that was raised was the requirement, the GPA requirement for a 2.8 for returning students, and there was a concern raised that, where would those students go if they didn't satisfy the GPA? Where do you guys land on that one?
Yes, so all focused choice schools have a steering committee. Part of the steering committee, as I think I shared in the last one, include EBR schools, community members, and industry partners, and they would decide the various pathways. Based on whatever GPA kids have, they would go through matriculating that way. And as part of the condition that with one of the conditions, children that were there at the school, we made sure they would complete. It will all come down to what the steering committee discusses as it pertains to where kids would go if they don't meet that requirement. But our goal is to make sure that they stay within the school.
So that determination will be on an individual case-by-case basis?
No. Being the focused choice committee is the steering committee. They pretty much help with the governance structure of the school. And so in that governance, they would have discussions about where students would be if this child is not making it, what's the opportunity to provide the child to either go into different pathways, different types of conversation that would be had by that committee to determine that.
Can you help me out with what those choices are as we see it today, and what your preference would be for those children?
I mean, what's important for me is that the steering committee, which is kind of the governance committee of the school, would have the opportunity to discuss what kind of opportunities they provide to children. So an example would be if a child does not have that GPA, maybe they need to go into another pathway, or maybe they need to have an after-school program, extra supports. There's a lot of different ways for them to go about that.
Would it be at this school, or would they go to another school?
It depends on the conversation that we would have with the steering committee about that. What's important for us in that process is that we're getting kids actually the certification they need to go through the school. I think, and I do think that the challenge we had in the last conversation was we were concerned about what happens to kids who don't make it. I think that was a lot of the conversation. What we would say is why we think the focused choice model works is there's a lot of ways for kids to have an opportunity to make it. For example, they have internships that we count for credit. They have opportunities to boost their grades. There's a lot of different ways that they get hands-on experience to do what they're doing. So that's kind of where I see it. I don't see it as a zero-sum game. It's not well, the child didn't make it, so they can't be here. It all depends on the opportunity and pathway, and that's why we think it's important as we have the focused choice model that you have a steering committee which includes EBR schools, industry partners that are invested in their alumni, that's their faith-based folks. It's a very governed, structured model that we have to ensure that all kids don't fall through the cracks in that process. We actually have bylaws that we set for all focused choice schools for this model.
Okay. Next time when you guys come back, I'd just like to hear a little bit more detail about that. I mean, there's a lot of focus on the community, right? And if you have kids that attend the school the first year, they don't make the GPA, and they're from that community, okay, where are they going to go, right? I think parents would like to know that, going in, what does that look like? That's what we're going on with that one.
If I can just share one thing, I just want to push a little bit different. It's not from a deficit approach. What we would say is that if a child doesn't succeed in a particular pathway, there's other opportunities that you have to provide them to keep them on the pathway. If you look at schools that we've had that have done improvement, there have been other sets of opportunities that we provide. What makes the focused choice model, in our perspective, very good is that we have industry which is supporting them with hands-on experience, which I think has not been something that's happened across schools here in our parish. And that's why we love Fast Forward and all this stuff. But we just believe that those programs should start early, not later.
All right, I'm with you on that, 100%. So that's a good segue to my next question. When I look at the curriculum they're proposing, it looks like there's 3 pathways here. So you've got medical, you've got technology, and you've got management. Everybody who's aware of the teacher shortage and situation, nationwide, and our community is no different, right? Can you help me out? How do you plan to staff appropriately for these 3 different pathways, with the next school year?
Yeah, so we have a process that we'll walk through, which will include some of our industry partners, where we're going to be, we've already, as you saw the Baton Rouge General CEO talked about, where we do a partnership with them on the type of experiences kids have, not only with the general curriculum, but also with the industry work, which we believe that helps with staffing. So for example, let's say a child wants to go into and learn technology around blood pressure medicine, right? Well, we'd be working with staff at the hospital and simultaneously with project-based learning at the school for them to go learn that. And so
So hospital staff are coming to the school?
That's correct. So if you look at Park Elementary, for example, which we did that, where they have staff that actually comes to support the children in the model. What we tell industries are, it's not just about money, it's about people, time, and money. So as you see, for example, the CEO Baton Rouge, he's actually dedicating time from whether it was doctors, nurses, or any group or person in his organization to go in and help support students in the school to learn what they need to learn. Whereas just now,
he's committed to doctors coming on campus for instruction?
He's actually had, in our current Park Elementary model, we actually had,
So good evening, Teresa Ford, Executive Director of Innovative and Specialized Programs. So one of the things that we've done, as Dr. Marcy said, the investment with Baton Okay, thank you. Okay, so the partnership with Baton General Medical Center, as Dr. Marcy said, the CEO of Baton General has invested in the entire process. In fact, they're at the table with us as we have, promoted and integrated this process. And so one of the things that we did first, we wanted to make sure that parents knew what this new process was about. And so we had a fair, and parents, they came out, and of course, Baton General had doctors, they had nurses, they had pharmaceutical people, they even had a job fair. So in other words, that community element that we've been talking about was very essential during that process. And then there are the kids. The kids had a wonderful time. I'm just speaking, obliquely right now, but there were interactive activities. They were engaged because they didn't know what that focus choice model was about. They hear medical and go, well, doctor, no. When they found out that it was an exploratory model and that they could do so many different things, Baton General team had all kinds of activities. And when the students saw what they could really explore at that school, it made all the difference in the world. For parents to say, well, my child didn't sleep because they were so excited about this new program. That makes me, as an educator of 34 years, feel very, very good.
Yeah, one more thing. I just want to, and this is probably, if you look at some of your best performing schools, it's a project-based learning approach. So it's not only what you learn in the classroom, but it's also what you do with your hands and learning. So the whole design of the school is in that model, and designing it within those variations of power.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple more, I'm good. So we talked about the 3 pathways, talked about staffing for the 3 pathways. What's your forecast for enrollment?
Well, right now, the way that we look at enrollment is we'll have to go through attendance lines and those things. Our goal is to make sure that we'll bring that to the board so the board can decide on what those lines will look like. Part of the agreement, as we shared, is that neighborhood kids will have an opportunity, and then the board will decide if they will also allow them to open up to kids outside that day.
Okay. And then last question. it's kind of the elephant in the room, I guess, and that's the capital expenses and, what does that investment look like? What does the timing look like? I heard tonight that there's an option on the table, that somebody mentioned, for a demo and a new building. So if I look at a timeline for 2023, the demo on a new building looks pretty tight. So, parents want to know, everybody wants to know, want some security in this whole deal, right? So can you help me out a little bit with what we're looking at there? And maybe the better way to ask the question is, as I understand this process that you were super early on, you guys are going to come back to us in October, and this board is actually going to vote at that point on the path forward. What's going on between now and October?
Yeah, from now to October, we'll continue our discussions. Myself, President Tappan, and General Counsel, and I will bring details to all of our boards around the specifics of those. And then, our goal is once Betsy votes in October, we plan the next day to engage the community, show them the new building we'd like to see if everything works out.
But what I'm trying to get at is, what are you guys going to bring to the table in October that's different than today?
What will be different is our board will vote to accept on September 15th. After the board votes to accept, then we will come back to you. We will continue our planning that we have, and it's a matter of a decision that you have to make to give us the vote.
I'm assuming when your board votes, though, you're going to be voting on a capital plan, yes or no? You got a plan with a building? You start a school without a building?
So let me have General Counsel, when could you come on with
members of the board, Superintendent, Mr. Morris. So,
State your name for the
I'm sorry, Gwen Shanley, General Counsel to the EBR School Board, support to the superintendent, and to give you as much information as we can, considering the fact that we began discussions in earnest this week. The plan is for our board to take a vote in September as to the return of the school. As counsel, my job is to vet any proposal that comes to the board prior to its vote. And so, as we develop the proposal, and then as we kind of discuss with the potential investors what that looks like, I want to let that heavily do legal counsel, because we're not sure what that process looks like. We've heard people mention leases and a number of other options, so we're looking at what the structure looks like first. And as you know, as a public body, we have to take certain steps to basically make that happen. And so that may not be the vote in October, it may be a vote thereafter once we've looked at how that looks. It depends on what the final structure looks like. So I believe, I don't want to overspeak here, more detail will be made available to Bessie board in October. It's Dr. Narcisse's intent, once the proposal and once the structure works itself out and is fleshed out, he brings it to his board first in September. And so my anticipation is more detail to you guys in October. Does that help?
A little bit. I'm just trying to, I'm just trying to speak for some of the parents that were, raised issues at the town hall, and I don't see them here, so I just want to make sure that they're properly represented, and I think the line of questions are appropriate.
I think the line of questions are appropriate, Chair, but there's other board members who also want to speak, so.
Oh, he comes to that, I'm sorry. Okay, last question, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll pass it.
Dr. Davis.
I just have one more concern, and it relates to this board of directors or whatever it is going to be that's going to determine how the school is run. And I just want to be clear that setting aside that 2.8 GPA or whatever it is that they have to stay in to be in, say, a medical pathway, that for neighborhood kids that want to go to that school, that it is my belief that parent comments and community input indicates that they would like a university diploma path and a career and technical path that is an option for them, that is independent of some kind of selective enrollment and higher standard than what they would get at a traditional neighborhood school. And so I want to be very clear that in my role as a Bessie member, I believe that those neighborhood kids ought to have a pathway that is a university diploma pathway and a career and technical pathway that is independent of their GPA. Because this goes to my concerns about kids that, as a 14 or a 15-year-old, as you guys pursue your bright future plan, that might not be ready for college enrollment classes as a 14 or 15-year-old, but are capable of college work when they turn 18. I'm worried about them being funneled into classes that where they graduate without what they need to go to a four-year university. And I want to preserve what I heard from all of those students in that gym and the parents who came to Bessie that said that that's what they wanted. Those opportunities for neighborhood schools that are independent of some kind of selective enrollment or admission that's going to kick them out.
Mr. Castillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me first thank all of the board members, Superintendent Narcisse, Councilman, Kayla, for all the collaboration and hard work. I did have an opportunity to tour the school in the last couple of weeks and the facilities.
Put your mic on.
It's green.
It's great. Okay.
Let me switch here. Is that any better?
Yeah.
When we start over. Look, great job. On the other hand, from a facility standpoint, I think we all agree that we've got a lot of work to do, and it may be starting from the ground up. The other thing I want to highlight is that we've got a date in terms of the plan of our October 11th board meeting. And it sounds like from hearing from Mr. Shamlin and from you, Dr. Narcisse, that we still have a process going on. You have to present something to your board has to accept that. The board may massage it, tweak it, and then you hope to have something that this board will approve on October 11th. But it may be that you don't have quite enough detail and we have to continue to tweak that process. So October 11th isn't necessarily the drop dead date, but it's sort of aspirational. And that is, you hope that we'll have enough detail to present to us that this board would approve it. But it's possible that we may end up a month or two down the road still working out the details. Is that fair to say where we are in the process?
So for us, it'll be important to know what level of detail that the Benson board will be looking for, because let's just say that there are certain things we cannot do until we're clear that the Benson board has returned the school to us. Right? So I think the challenge that we have is if you say, for example, we're going to wait another 3 months, 5 months from now to vote on this, well, then it's hard to, as we continue to discuss facilities or other things that we're discussing, like here's what happens next. And so, once our view of the world is once Betsy board, once we go on the 15th, whatever the additional pieces that Betsy North rework to the 5 conditions, if you okay that in your October meeting, and we can go ahead and begin to move quickly to transition with CDF, look at those, then we begin to work on our process on those things. It seems to me that the one issue that was brought up a lot is not the programming or the stuff with the kids, it's mostly about the facilities. But for us, as we shared your discussions, we're trying to work through all that so we can get through that deadline. So it would be important for us that in October, the Betsy board, after we go through our board that will vote to accept, gives us the opportunity to go ahead and move quickly on our side towards what our goals are.
Yeah, fair enough. I would just say for those board members who have expressed an interest in more detail, and I've heard that a few times, that we share that perhaps with the superintendent. We don't need to do that tonight, just so that there is no misunderstanding in terms of expectations of what might happen, such that in that presentation we don't deliver or vice versa. So just so that we have that clarity, so that October 11th rolls around and we're not all on the same page. Thank you, Mr. Superintendent.
All right, thank you very much. Any other board comment? Any objections to the motion? Having done, the motion passes. Thank you.
Your next item item is on page 144. Item 2.6, consideration of overview presentations and public input regarding Bessie authorized charter application proposals submitted in response to the fall 2022 charter school request for applications. Your recommendation is to receive.
Okay, thank you very much. May I please have a motion? Dr. Bovee, can I have a second, please? Second by Mr. Noren. And Superintendent, do you wish?
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, are we on 2.6?
2.6.
2.6, my apologies. All right. Contained in Bulletin 126, Section 513, the stages of the application cycle for Bessie authorized charter schools. It provides that prior to approving a charter for a type 2, 4, or 5 charter school, Bessie shall hold a public meeting for the purpose of considering the proposal and receiving public input. Such meetings shall be held after reasonable efforts have been made by Bessie to notify the public of the meeting and the agenda content. This evening, we are going to hear from the 5 organizations that are applying for type 2 charter schools. Those 5 organizations, and they will go in this order. The first is Elite Charter Academy, proposing to locate in Calcasieu Parish, opening with 270 students, growing to 630. They want to serve grades K through 2 at the beginning and then K through 6 at scale. They have applied to this board before, just last year, and they are also coming to you on appeal from Calcasieu. The second school we heard from is Louisiana Key Academy in Caddo. This is an experienced operator, also seeking to locate in Caddo Parish. They would like to serve students statewide, opening with 160 students, growing to 510, starting with grades 1 through 4, growing to grades 1 through 8. They have not applied to you before for a Caddo school, but they did go through the local district first, so they're coming to you on appeal. The third school here from is Madison Academy of Innovation, proposing to locate in Madison Parish. They would like to open with 135 students in grades K through 8 and grow to 270 students in grades K through 8. They also applied, have gone through this process previously, but they are not coming to you on appeal, given the regulations that allow them to bypass the local system, given the local system's current performance. The fourth school, Rebirth Blended Learning Academy. This is from the Community School for Apprenticeship Learning, which currently operates 3 other schools across the state. They are applying for a virtual school. They'll be located in East Baton Rouge Parish. Proposed opening enrollment is 1,000 students, serving grades 9 through 12, and hoping to grow to 2,000 students, 9 through 12. They have not participated previously, and they are coming to you on appeal. And then lastly, the Virtual Preparatory Academy of Louisiana, proposing to locate in St. Helena Parish, serving students statewide. The proposed opening grade configuration is K through 10, serving 500 students, looking to grow to K-12, 1,500 students. They have not participated in this cycle previously, and they are not coming to you on appeal. They have bypassed the local system. And so from here, we are going to invite our applicants to come up just one at a time. Given that we started this meeting in August and it's almost September, we are going to try to stick to our 5-minute timeline as much as possible. I know our presenters will help us do that as well. And then we have suggested that there is 5 minutes of questioning for each applicant from the board. However, that's your decision to make.
Thanks, Mr. Day. Just, Ms. Jones, just want to remind the board, this is a process where these applicants simply introduce themselves and their proposed school to you. There's not a decision this board makes tonight, so a decision will come at a later meeting. It's just an opportunity without the pressure of a decision to hear from these applicants. And they are limited to 5 minutes. And also, I just think it's important to know that there will be an opportunity for the board to make a level of questioning at the next meeting and in between now and then. So if you just keep that in mind as well. I know Ms. Jones, you may have had some comments on that too.
You said it. I mean, I hear you saying that there is another opportunity when more planning has occurred for this board to go even deeper. This is a preliminary meeting. Understood. Great, thank you. Should we commence? Let's do it.
Good evening, my name is George Esther Hall. I am the board chair for the Thrive Enrichment Community and Enrichment and Development Corporation for the Elite Charter Academy. Okay, Elite's mission is where average is not tolerated, but superior is the standard. Our mission here is that we want to see all students, students of all ethnicities engaged and participating in the learning process to the very best of their abilities. Everyone's ability is not the same, but that's where the superior lies in each child being able to tap into their potential so that they can reach those goals. ECA's vision is cultivating and establishing a global mindset for future leaders and equipping all stakeholders with a foundation to achieve the highest level of social, academic, and emotional success. Next. Okay, our purpose here is to address the disparities, academic disparities against economically disadvantaged children. There's a high percentage of students who have fallen through the cracks. They're functioning even below basic levels. The Calcasieu Parish school system has redistricted their zones, and which causes some of the failing schools to be averaged in with schools that are doing well, which causes the overall report to look like it's good, but underneath the surface, these schools are still failing. And that's what we want to address. We're targeting these students so that they can get a better education, and just like it says, our purpose is safety first, and we want to be able to have the children be accepted, affirmed, and so that they can begin the learning process. And now Dr. DeVoe.
ECA chose the gradual release of learning model along with differentiated instruction and collaboration. The gradual release learning model was a model that was designed by two professors of educational leadership from San Diego University. It is a style of teaching where the structured model of pedagogy and framework is a process where students will take responsibility for their own learning and the teacher will act as a facilitator. The gradual release of learning model is coined success for all. Reason being is because of the fact we do, I do, and you do. We do, the teacher is teaching whole group. I do will be where the students are collectively working on the example that was taught by the student, and you do is a assessment component. This model has been used in different states here in the United States, in New Jersey, Montana, Iowa, Texas, and some schools in New York, and of course in schools in Florida. And these states have reported that when 100% of their students that have been taught with the gradual release of learning model, that their standard state scores have been 98% in reading and ELA, and they have gained 80% of a success rate in mathematics. The gradual release model can be taught in both ways, face-to-face instruction or on a virtual platform.
Thank you. Please start to wrap up.
And this is the reason why we chose to use the gradual release model, because of the fact that, like in previous years, we've had the disparity and emergencies in with the pandemic and the 2 hurricanes that we had. So we felt that this would be a great model to use in case that ever happens again.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. Any reactions or questions from board members? Okay, thank you very much.
Did y'all fill out cards, by the way, comment cards? These are cards.
Thank you. Who goes next? Go ahead, Matt.
Yes. Up next, we'll have Louisiana Key Academy.
And then Max, can you say who's next after that so that they can come sit?
Yes, and then following Louisiana Key, we'll have Madison Academy of Innovation.
Okay, beyond that. Hi, good afternoon, evening. Yes, yeah, try. No. Yes, how about now? Yes, beautiful. Awesome. Thank you guys. Hello, Kayla Reggio with Louisiana Key Academy. I'm here to talk to you guys about Louisiana Key Academy, Caddo. Excited to be representing the 1 in 5 children with dyslexia. So our mission will be the same as our other 2 campus sites, one here in Baton Rouge and one on the North Shore, which is to serve the community at large, to evaluate and remediate children with dyslexia. We do that using evidence-based curriculum and to stand as an excellent model for what it means to educate students with dyslexia and a resource for other schools in the community at large. Our vision is really to impart on the broader community, not just within the walls of our schools, but the broader community a better understanding of what dyslexia is, how prevalent it is, that it affects 1 in 5 individuals, how important it is to actually identify these children at an early age and ensure that they're getting those better outcomes based on an evidence-based curriculum. And we do this actually through our instructional model. So part of our instructional model is we have smaller class sizes. So our average student-to-teacher ratio for 90 minutes of that language arts is in 6 to 1. And that's delivered by someone who's a certified academic language therapist or who's in training to be such. We used evidence-based instruction based on the 21st century science of what we know about dyslexia and how that impacts one's ability to learn to read and what we can do to improve those reading scores and fluency. And we also have continuous professional development and student data analysis. So we're focused on that individualized learning of the student and ensuring that everything that we do is to meet the individual needs of the student through both data analysis, but also through training our teachers and investing in our teachers as experts in the field of dyslexia through professional training and certification. We will serve specifically dyslexic students in Caddo and also the surrounding parishes who are struggling to reach their fullest potential. And we're excited to hopefully have the opportunity to serve even more dyslexic children across our state. Any questions? Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. Appreciate all of you. Thank you. Okay, next.
All right, next we have Madison Academy of Innovation, and on deck we have Rebirth Blended Learning Academy.
Okay.
evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lydia Haggard. I am the proposed director for Madison Academy of Innovation. Welcome. The Academy of Innovation. The Academy of Innovation mission is to increase learning opportunities and access to quality education for students in Madison Parish. Students will be given the right set of circumstances to learn in a project-based, hands-on learning environment and become self-reliant, logical thinkers who can carry these skills into the real world. The vision of the Academy is to create an academy where all students can improve pupil learning. Our mission and vision will align to prepare at-risk students for leadership, character building, academic excellence, and STEM and arts-related careers. The Academy will prepare students for the economy through the teaching of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Our school model, the intended instructional model, innovation of Madison Academy of Innovation, is the innovation, instruction, and learning. Acquiring, induction, problem-solving, decision-making, discovery, where computer science components are used throughout the academy. Academic pathways will be created in kindergarten through 3rd grade, with students being introduced to the aspects of science, arts, and math. The introduction to technology and engineering will begin in the 4th grade, believing that all students have a strong and solid pathway to travel. I'm just going to get off path a little bit. We just want to say, since we've been here last time, it was a few things we had to bridge the gap on. And one of those things was our teachers. So, no disrespect to Dr. Butler, but we're not putting any students or staff from Madison Parish School District. We have reached outside of the district. As of right now, we have 8 teachers. 5 are certified, and we have 3 pending certification. Also, we have proposed principal as well. And in addition to that, our budget for the first year came up to be approximately $1.2 million. We have secured with MOUs and commitments from banks for $1.5 million to begin our first year for the Academy of Innovation. Also, as far as technology is concerned, our organization partnered with Computers for Learning. So therefore, we were able to get the technology we need to start our classes. We have over 200 computers. We have over 20 smart boards, as well as the Corps of Engineering donated us iPads as well. So pretty much our program, if given a chance, we're all pretty much for the first year ready to move in. We do have a current location with approximately 10 classrooms, each one of them 800 square feet. So we pretty much this year is more prepared than we were last. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? Any questions from board members? Dr. Davis?
This one is, Max, is this the school that did not have to go through their school board, but came straight to us? Not this one?
Oh. Yes, they're here.
I would just like to say that as a Bessie member, when this comes back in October, we had a very broad discussion over exactly this kind of issue with the Baker School District, where there was a distinct lack of collaboration or any kind of community input between the school operator and their school board and their city council. And so I would like to avoid that. So I would really encourage you to reach out to those community members so that they can feel involved in the process, and with the community, that you could have community buy-in, because this is a very similar situation where Madison, I looked it up, has 1,192 students, a similar small enrollment like the Baker School District, so there are lots of parallels, and I would like to avoid that kind of fraught and very emotional discussion among community leaders and this proposed operator.
Excellent. Thank you. We have one public comment card from Dr. Charlie Butler Jr. Would you like to speak on behalf of this application?
Thank you for letting me speak. I'm Dr. Charlie Butler. I'm the superintendent at Madison Parish.
Last year at this time, she brought the application in as well. One of the biggest things that we have is into a small community, very few students, very few teachers, qualified teachers. So that puts a big damper into what we're trying to do as a community, bring back, just bringing back the zest of the community, making sure that our students have enough certified, qualified teachers in order to improve. This will be a pull, a draw from the district. We just don't have the human capital in the area. I'm not against charters at all. I was a part of a charter, but this situation in Madison is not the best situation to bring another charter school into the area and pull already with limited resources that we have from staff as well as students. So that's my only opposition.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, no board members, comments or questions. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, we have Rebirth Limited Learning Academy, and then last, we'll have Virtual Preparatory Academy of Louisiana.
Good evening. My name is Juwan Johnson. I'm the CEO of Community Schools for Apprenticeship Learning. Along with me, I have Mr. Lamont Cole, who serves as our Chief Academic Officer, Mr. John B. of the TEA, who's our Chief Financial Officer, and Dr. Herman Brister, who's helping to lead us in this effort. Louisiana Rebirth Blended Learning Academy. Our main mission is to serve adjudicated students in high school, providing them with real-world experiences and giving them access to an alternative track high school education. And of course, our mission along with that would be to provide them with high-level learning activities, regardless of what circumstance they come to us with.
Good evening. Our instructional model will be centered around 3 pillars. One will be one-on-one instruction based on the individual learning plan that will assess their academic point of need and then provide them with assistance 24 hours a day. The next pillar would be to provide virtual and face-to-face instruction through a blended model. Currently, we have a plan to set up blended sites in Jefferson Parish, Caddo Parish, Orleans Parish, and Rouge Parish. And then lastly, but certainly not least, to provide some instruction around social emotional learning. We recognize the target population is seeking to enroll may be dealing with some social emotional issues as a result of some of their individual circumstances. Then lastly, but certainly not least, our target population will be those in our state who are identified as adjudicated youth as a result of some of the circumstances and decisions they made. They find themselves being under the supervision of a judge and or a probation officer. And so that is the population we tend to target, working with the Office of Juvenile Justice, Louisiana Department of Corrections, as well as the Louisiana Judges Association. We have been assured that there is a large population of young people who find themselves in a situation who are not in school, who are in need of a different academic opportunity, and so we'd like to provide that.
Great. Any more questions?
Said keep it short, right?
Yes. Questions from the board? Thank you. Thank you.
All right, and then finally we have the Virtual Preparatory Academy of Louisiana.
My name is Houston Tucker from the Virtual Preparatory Academy of Louisiana. Proposed K-12 statewide virtual schools to serve career readiness, workforce readiness across the state. Originally, board member Casey Francis was supposed to be here. She called me on my way down today and said that she was sick. And so I moved from back there watching in the gallery to up here, which I'm not sure which one I prefer. But I want to let you know, I'm an educational consultant. I've been working with our original board chair, Jared Vogt, months ago, reaching out to organizations across the state, like the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry, to determine the need for workforce readiness in the state of Louisiana. Also, Jared and I worked together to form the mission, but also find board members by working with the Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools and find qualified board members to serve with us on the board. I share that because Jared passed away unexpectedly about 3 weeks ago, but we're still continuing the work that she and I started months ago. The mission, of course, of the virtual Preparatory Academy of Louisiana is up there for you guys to read. But I think the real mission, as we see it, is to fill the 5 critical goals that's outlined in the 100-day report that was put out not too long ago. The only one we can't do is the rank for kindergarten because we started kindergarten. But our desire is to make 3rd graders ready and proficient for 4th grade, 8th graders ready for high school, especially the career readiness college pathway, because kids will have a college pathway as well. And then finally, that they would have the graduate on time and have the ability for the TOPS scholarship. And we see that as really the root of our mission, going beyond what's written on the board. The vision is just offer a personalized learning opportunity for students across the state, reaching through asynchronous, synchronous learning, through curriculum that's aligned to state standards here in Louisiana, as well as state-certified teachers that we can serve students from all corners of the states, beyond just the urban areas as well. As part of the instructional model, partnering with Excel schools, ACCDL schools, they've got a long history of working with brick and mortar charter schools as well as virtual schools. Great experience in turning around failing charter schools academically, financially. They have a proven curriculum, just recently approved by the Florida Department of Ed as a virtual instructional provider for the state of Florida, which has a rigorous process as well. So we feel very confident about what Excel can bring to the table, the research and the evidence-based results that they have. In Ohio, when you look at their value-added scores, they're outperforming the major districts in Ohio. Odella, the virtual school they took over, is outperforming the other virtual schools in the state of Ohio, as well as the other states that they serve. So we're very confident about what they can bring to the table here in Louisiana for the students here. The target population, again, you can read what's up there, but I just want to encourage the dozen board members here that our desire is to reach out into the rural communities and to allow students from each community, each parish, to have an opportunity to tap into the career readiness, the workforce readiness that they may not be able to get at their local school. If they do, then they can of course stay there, but we just want to be able to reach out and serve students throughout the state, offer them an opportunity that begins in elementary with career awareness, middle school career exploration, and then into high school kind of a career pathway. That career may include college, and so we do offer a college pathway as well. But just allow them that when they get into high school, that they have those credentials that they're ready to step into that next phase beyond high school once they graduate. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We do have some public comment. Many do not wish to speak, but I just want to record it into the record. So Miranda Watson does oppose the recommendation, but does not wish to speak. Cammy Henley opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Trish Clark opposes the recommendation, but does not wish to speak. Leah Valdez opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Christy Nettles opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. Bernard McPherson opposes the recommendation, does not wish to speak. and Miss, I believe, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read the first name, Miss White Hampton, you got that right? Opposes the recommendation but does not wish to speak. May I please have Dr. James Finney and Dr. Kelly Joseph, please.
Thank you. James Finney. I would hope that Dr. Brumley and his staff are extremely stingy on recommending that any of these be approved. Charter schools need to do something interesting and unique, and they shouldn't be allowed to damage democratically controlled public education that provides a free and appropriate education for everybody. And some of these proposals sound pretty alarming. I saw a slide for Elite Charter Academy that I didn't believe. And if I see one slide I don't believe, that means that I'm inclined to think that most of their application will be equally remarkable. There's a slide that says their model that serves disadvantaged students somehow got 98% to mastery. I would hope that you would be very skeptical about anything else you see come from that organization. The second one, the Key Academy in Caddo, they're going to propose later in this meeting that you give them an exemption to something they agreed to for their second school. I don't even think the first school is that great. I'm pretty sure they're going to reduce the quality of the school in Baton Rouge when they try to stretch to St. Tammany and immediately expanding to Caddo. That's ridiculous. And for these organizations to bypass the Madison and St. Helena school boards, as Dr. Davis pointed out, that's ridiculous. If the folks in Madison Parish thought they knew better than the folks running the Madison Parish schools, I would hope they all qualified for the election that's taking place in a few months. But it's important not to destroy the public education for community for the advantage of somebody that wants to run their own system and doesn't want to play ball with the people who are in charge. And I have no idea who the personalities are, but the application you approved for Baker was a horrible idea, the one you're apparently going to be presented for Madison on its very face. No matter how good these people are, that's a bad idea. And I don't believe that anybody is going to organize a virtual school that will actually be in St. Helena Parish. So I don't think it's fair for you to even consider that application. For one thing, I heard an emphasis on technical education. Well, I teach at a really good trade school, and we had to do virtual for a while. It does not work. So I think that's a ridiculous application. I did not mention in my disparaging remarks one of the five. The one for the adjudicated youth might actually be worth a little bit of consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's been a long day. Thank you for listening. St. Helena Parish School District and its citizens do not appreciate being the doormat for an out-of-state virtual school to serve kids throughout the state. School districts rated D or F do not have the ability to make charter organizations request approval through their local school boards. The charter organization can go directly to Bessie, and that is what this company is doing now. Everyone knows St. Helena is a rural district with limited access to internet services. We do have Virtual Academy that's been in place for over 6 years now. It provides credit recovery for our kids, it provides additional support, and it maintains the quality content when we lose a teacher. And this is all done at our schools. We also provide summer school for our kids through this virtual platform. The documents that was provided for this company stated that their 5-year projection shows only 7 kids in our district, but shows larger numbers for kids in other parishes across the state. So the superintendents from those school districts, well, all superintendents, need to be a part of this conversation. So the spirit of the law is being twisted to support this out-of-state virtual charter school's ambition to do business in Louisiana. And once again, St. Helena does not want to be the doormat for this to occur. So we ask that you do not allow this to happen. Our board, our parents in St. Helena are not interested in virtual charter schools. They prefer face-to-face. And as we all know, since we had the pandemic, we all understand that face-to-face is the best educational option for all of our kids. And besides, all of our families work. So there would be no opportunity for any kids to be able to be at home to do virtual, because they would be by themselves. And our parents do not want that. Our parents prefer face-to-face. We do not want to be forced into this situation, and we pray that you feel the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other board discussion at this time? Okay, having none, any opposition to the motion? Okay, Dr. Boki.
I had a question for that, the last one about why St. Helena. I'd like to hear from them.
Yeah, come back.
So why St. Helena?
Yeah, turn the mic on.
Is it not on?
Down?
Yeah.
Great. Closer to you. Yeah. Cool, yeah.
Originally, the board chair that I mentioned earlier passed away. She and I worked, we actually researched, not St. Helena first, we actually researched East Baton Rouge. She directed me to look there. In my research there, I found out that they had denied that virtual charter application, I think in 2019. Excuse me, I'm sitting on there, my voice decided to leave early. But so we looked there, and when we looked at East Baton Rouge, and decided that was probably not a favorable place in terms of the application process going through them. She then asked me to look at the parishes that were surrounding East Baton Rouge, St. Helena, Ascension, and I believe Livingston was the other one. And so we reached out to each of them, including St. Helena Parish, maybe 6-7 months ago, to talk about how to work through them to apply for a virtual charter school, and didn't receive responses from any of them. And it was in the course of my research with Jara in terms of the processes, when actually Jara instructed me about this policy that you guys have here about going directly to vesting. So that's when I reached out to the Department of Ed to find out is that true? Is it possible? How does that process go? We reached out to these parishes when we're not hearing back. What other steps can we take? So of the ones that we had looked into, St. Helena met that criteria that's in the down law. And so that's, in essence, when we looked at it, we did do St. Helena from that standpoint, because we wanted to have it as far as having teachers. We're going to have some teachers statewide, but we are going to have an administrative office in St. Helena. We actually were in discussion with the gentleman there who's on the building. It's an extension of the building, it's the white building. I think is the name of it. I don't have the address off the top of my head, but so we're actually going to have administrative offices there in St. Helena. It is, of course, but it was, I do hear what she's saying. We don't see it as a doormat. We're looking for a place to partner. And when this came about, we decided that as best as possible.
We're sorry for your loss, your colleague.
Oh, thank you.
Dr. Joseph, would you like to respond since you were addressed?
Yes, I would. There was no communication from this company. No one reached out. No one reached out. The argument that they were unable to contact us or did not see our charter application process on our website is a weak one, because they managed to make it here before you today. If they were sincere about reaching out to us, they would still be trying to locate us. And if you see in their application, it states that they will not have any space in our district. And it would be interesting to see where that location would be and how much access they would have to the internet. They would probably use the services that we provide for our schools to be able to access any type of internet connectivity. So once again, we would be considered the doormat because in 5 years, they're stating that only 7 of our kids, and 7 is a lot of funding for us, right? Because we have a small population in St. Helena. But they would only take 7 of our kids. But if you look at the other parishes, like St. Tammany, they would have like 146 kids they would take from that district. They would take another 40 or whatever from Tangipahoa. They would take another, 40 whatever from Orleans Parish, from all across the state. So the reason why, in my personal opinion, they looked at St. Helena and saw that we are a D school, and they said they do not have to come to our board to ask for approval. They can come straight to Bessie, and they use that law to get to you, and here we are. They have twisted the spirit of the law to help move forward their desire to do business in Louisiana.
Thank you. All right, any other board comment at this time? Questions? Great. Any objections to the motion? Okay, having done, the motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item, we return to the regular order of business, which is item 2.1, page 1, consideration of an updated report regarding Bessie authorized charter school oversight activities. The recommendation is to receive.
Yeah, well, Superintendent, go ahead.
Yeah, just before that, we wanted to present some information tonight just of how we are working alongside our charter partners in collaboration and in oversight. And we think that this is information that this board needs to know and have available. But given that we are at 8 p.m., we would prefer to just defer this item to our January meeting, if that is acceptable to the
Move to defer.
Great. Can I have a second on that? Mr. Miller, you got it. Okay, great. Next item.
Next item, item 2.2, consideration of the 22-23 request for application. Oh, wait, we had a comment.
Okay.
On 2.1.
Okay. So, okay, Gary. No.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary McLaughlin. Yes, sorry about that.
But, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to this, even though it's being deferred, because my request is going to be that it be deferred, so the department can update its presentation to you at your next meeting, so this works out as well.
Okay.
I have handouts which will be relevant to this discussion.
So should we be doing this? I mean, if we're deferring the item, hold on, just want to do a point of process. Shan?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. It's
Yeah,
fine.
okay. Great.
So I know what the proper procedure is to distribute these.
Bring it on up.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. We don't have staff. They're all working minutes for the other committees, so we're not here until tonight.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
I represent the Vermillion Charter Foundation, so I request 5 minutes as their representative. The last couple of weeks, in fact this year, has been an interesting process for the Vermillion Charter Foundation. I represent them and other charter foundations around the state as their attorney. As you may recall, Vermillion received the charter in January of this year. And if you look at the charter contract chronology, which is being distributed, just to vote on that. We've had a difficult time getting the contract in. And it's had some profound influences on our ability to move forward with the opening of our school. Without the contract, we cannot obtain financing, we cannot obtain a site, we cannot start construction, we cannot start hiring staff. We've made repeated efforts since the January 18th meeting, and I'll go over this. It'll be in the top of the first page of the chronology. The conditions upon the charter granted to Reggio were three. Completion of all pre-opening requirements is determined by LDE, addressing any conditions or special considerations set forth by Bessie, and execution of the charter contract prior to opening. We received no other information concerning this except by email. In February, we were advised, in response to our request.
I'm sorry, I have to stop you just because there's a question about relevance to the item.
I'm going to explain that.
Certainly.
It has to do with standards, alignment, and accountability, and the obligation we believe that the department has to our charter to be, provide us with the standards, to be aligned with our interests and ours with theirs, and for us to have them accountable to us as they hold us accountable to them.
I feel like continue, please.
Thank you. In the chronology, there's several pages showing the information back and forth by email, also a couple of personal conversations asking when we were going to receive the contract. There was never anything in the charter conditions of January which indicated the execution of the contract could only follow the other conditions or what those conditions were. It was not until this past Friday that we realized that there was no intention for us to be able to proceed with the contract until we had completed pre-opening requirements that had not been provided to us, but had been promised to us since February of this year. This has delayed our ability to obtain a site for our school. It will delay our ability to start construction. It will delay our ability to open in the fall of next year. If you look at page 6 of the chronology, it recites again the fact that for the first time we were told at the beginning of that page that there would be pre-opening activities listed as a contingency in the January minutes that would have to be satisfied. But again, those requirements were never disclosed to us. If you look at page 7, where there's a big asterisk on the left-hand side, it states to us, regarding the contract, we did check with our legal department earlier this summer regarding if we could distribute contracts on an earlier timeline for those charters that had already been approved but will not open for another year. They said that was not possible. Contracts will be executed upon completion of the pre-opening process in June 2023. That's an impossible condition. That is a catch-22. You cannot open the school in August of 2023 if you only receive the contract in June of 2023 and execute it in June of 2023. That does not allow time for financing, site acquisition, faculty, anything of that nature. I've attached to pages 8 and 9 the portions of Bulletin 126, which address the contract execution. There's nothing in here which mandates that the contract be signed delayed until completion of the requirements. Only that the required conditions that are specified by the requirement be completed. Again, we've never been provided with that information, so we cannot do so. The concern we have is that we were unaware of this. It's not listed in Bulletin 126. And the department has several adjunct documents, such as the addendum which is proposed for your learning pods, the guidelines that are proposed for the learning pods, the charter compact. Those sorts of things fall outside of Bulletin 126, making it very difficult for someone to know exactly what it is they need to do. I believe the reason for this, and if you look at the 2-page handout that I gave you, may I have 60 seconds? 60 seconds. If you look at the 2-pager, it shows that the superintendent has the obligation, he shall, in accordance with the Administrative Procedure Act, make, alter, amend, and promulgate rules. The definition of rules and rulemaking follows. The things that we're running into are things that are not rules that are promulgated through the Administrative Procedure Act. And that requires an application for the opportunity for public input or not. So for that reason, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight, and that we request on behalf of the Reggio Charter Foundation that the presentation that you received in December, I think it is, address the standards, the alignment, and the accountability of us to the department and the department to the charter holders. Thank you.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Garrett.
question. Are you saying that because you don't have a contract, you can't build the school?
Correct.
And the department is saying you can't get a contract until you build the school?
We don't know what the requirements are. We never received it. We did receive, I believe yesterday, a copy of the 2022 requirements. That was the first notice we had of what that package might contain.
Well, when you got the notice, that is different from this issue, as you described as a catch-22. Is this, if he's having this problem, we must have had other charters that had this problem. If this rule has been in place for a while, I don't remember other charters saying that they had this problem, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're happy to explore this process. As I understand it, historically, this is the way, and Joan, you would know best, but historically, contracts have been issued once charters have gone through the pre-opening process.
That's correct. We can't enter into the contract. We can't enter into a contract until they've completed the pre-opening procedures.
So
that doesn't mean they built the school, but they have to have everything in place before we can enter into a contract.
well, how would, I can understand the concern of a charter operator building a multi-million-dollar school when they don't have a contract. Are you telling me that other charter operators did do that?
Yes, we've never had this issue before.
And if I could add, what we've done in the past is we have worked with schools that are going through the pre-opening process. When they've needed some kind of a formal letter of support or something, what we've done is we've written a letter to a bank or a financer or something and said, this school was authorized by Bessie on this date to open a school that will serve approximately this number of kids. This school is on track to finish the pre-opening process and be given a contract in June or July, whenever we expect them to execute that. And I believe that is what schools have used in the past to procure that funding. I'm not sure what would be different in this situation, but that is what we've been using historically.
Well, the thing that's different is we've never received pre-opening requirements. We don't know what they are.
They're always included in the packets when Bessie approves the charter application. If the motion itself says contingent on the completion of the requirements, the requirements are listed in the minutes as well as listed in the executive recommendation when the application is presented. And your letter confirming the approval of your charter is mailed by my office, which includes the pre-opening guidelines.
If you look at page 10 of the handout, it has the minutes of the Bessie meeting in January 18th. It lists the 3 conditions, and there are 3 boilerplate generic conditions. We have never received, or we have repeatedly asked for a contract. We've never been told about the pre-opening performance package or packet that's a condition to receiving the contract until yesterday.
Yeah, I would just say that this is historically how this process has worked according to our council. If there is a desire to explore this, and I think there probably is, given what feels like a bit of a catch-22 here, I'm happy to do that, and we will go and look at that and examine practices here. But this is a historical practice that doesn't mean it should continue this way. It's just been the way it's been. So we have to go look at that.
Yeah, let's look into it. In the meantime, can we get this guy a list of the pre-opening requirements?
We received 2022, we're told they're going to change to 2023, so we don't know what that is, and we're told we're not going to get the contract until June of 2023.
Well, he's saying that previous operators have used the letter that, I guess you could say, certifies that you've been authorized, can be used for the kind of things you would think a contract could be used for. Other charter operators have used it.
We can't get financing until we have the contract in place. The approval by itself is not sufficient.
Well, I believe Charter Schools USA has built schools, and if they followed this procedure, that they did it with a letter of certifying authorization.
I was the attorney for Latin Charter Foundation in 2012, and we went through the process and opened our 2 schools in 2014. I don't recall any pre-opening package in prior administration, not holding anybody there accountable for that. And Charter Schools USA hasn't opened any new schools recently. I don't represent Charter Schools USA, I represent the foundations. My job at the foundation is to explain to them what they've got to do. And we've really done everything we could since January to request the contract, or at least to have been informed that there were preconditions to even receiving it, and then now only to receive the knowledge that it's not going to be till mid-next year when we receive the contract. So you're at a precipice. You're going to open the school in August, you're going to staff up prior to that, but you don't have the contract until June.
Well, let's back up 1 second and let's try to be quick on this because I know everybody wants to go home. You submitted an application and we approved that application.
Yes, sir.
I think in one sense, that's a contract. You can bring that into court and enforce it, I believe. So maybe we need to change this process and allow the department to issue what normal people would think looks like a contract, but then not allow the school to open until the pre-opening conditions are met. And the superintendent said he was willing to explore this, and maybe that's a solution that would help this situation. I just offered as an idea.
Yeah,
Again, I'm glad to follow up.
Happy to I've never received a complaint about this particular process before, and it's the way it's been happening, so we're happy to look at it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. James.
Thank you. While you're considering issues with regard to the Vermillion Charter Foundation, I would hope you might consider revoking that approval. Clearly, they haven't spent any money on building. Well, Fred Apple really hasn't bought a building yet, so it appears there would be no harm. But to the general agenda point, it seems as though the last time you did a round of renewals, there was an assumption on the part of the department that you will bend over backwards to allow these private unelected organizations to continue to spend public money. That's backwards. You should consider recommending for renewal or extensions charter organizations that are clearly able to demonstrate that they are improving the educational outcomes for their community. And if they can't do that, turn off the spigot. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. Board members, any objections to the motion? Having none, motion passes. Next item.
Next item, item 2.2, page 15.
Okay.
Consideration of the 22-23 request for applications, timeline, and common charter application framework. The department recommendation is to approve.
Great, Madam, put to the motion. Ms. Holloway, second.
Second.
Second, Dr. Boki. Any comments?
You have that presentation in your binder, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Is there any public comment on this? Okay. Dr. Penny. Sarah Vandergriff is.
The rubric that I've typically seen for consideration of the charter application is far too open to the idea of creating privately operated, publicly funded organizations. Again, that's backwards. If you're going to have an opportunity for private organizations to spend a lot of public money and affect a lot of lives, there needs to be a clear understanding that they're actually able to improve the community's educational framework. And I don't think that's the case with past applications.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sarah Vandergriff Kelly with the Louisiana Association of Public Charter Schools. We just want to be on the record for thanking the department that are working really hard and tirelessly on this application and changing it. They really worked hard to get a lot of input from multiple interested parties, as well as the experience of previous applicants to really tighten up the application process, streamline it, remove some of the duplicated efforts or questions so that the application is as streamlined as possible, and it really is focused on very compliance heavy in terms of what applicants are required to know and do under both state and federal laws. So we just want to thank the Department of Ed for their
efforts on this process.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I just want to thank Caroline and Sarah and their organization just for supporting through this process and being a partner on making sure we do have a solid, streamlined process.
Great, okay, awesome. Any board opposition? Having none, the motion passes. Next item.
Next item, 2.3, page 110. Consideration of a status report regarding the transportation waiver request submitted by Louisiana Key Academy for North Shore. Recommendation is to receive.
Great. Ms. Holloway, second by Mr. Miller. Is there any comment on this?
This packet, I mean, this is in your packet. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any board member questions? Yes, Dr. Davis.
Just one briefly, given the conversations that were had in the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget or whatever about our type 2s meeting their economically disadvantaged enrollment numbers, do we anticipate the Academy having any trouble meeting those numbers without transportation? I don't know if one of you might be able to offer that, or does the department have any ideas?
Sure. What I can say, this is a new school that is going to be opening this fall. Like, if we're looking at the track record of the organization, the school in Baton Rouge, their economically disadvantaged requirement is 62.5. In 2019, they exceeded that. They were at 62.9. 10/1/2020, they exceeded. They were at 67%. And this last October, they were at 70%. So they exceeded economically disadvantaged. And then with students with disabilities, the required percent is to serve 10.6. In 2019, that number was 56.8%. In 2020, that was 51.2%. And in 21, that was 54.1%. So I would say in short, now we don't have any changes or anything.
Thank you so much, I appreciate that.
Any other board opposition to the motion? One card. Dr. Finney.
I appreciate Dr. Davis's question. They knew what the deal was when they filed the application. They are required to provide transportation. It's changing the rules in the middle of the game if you give them this waiver. Please don't. If you don't provide transportation, even if you meet the 85% of the standard requirement, you are still absolutely, positively excluding the poorest of the poor. And that is cheating on the accountability system, and you shouldn't tolerate it.
Thank you. Any board discussion on this item? You have to put in a card.
And I'm gonna put in a poll. Just put in my poll. But I'm gonna say this. Okay.
Just state your name for the record.
Veronica Boyd, parent of chapter parent and disability advocate. When we talk about schools, I want to bring up the Emerge Charter as well. Emerge Charter is a school that specializes in working with children with autism, and they do not have buses as well. And because they do not have buses, they do lotteries in the selection process for us children, which means that we're actually having children that do not actually meet the legal requirement of socioeconomic disadvantage being labeled as socioeconomic disadvantage and attending that school in the place of a child that really and truly is socioeconomically disadvantaged. So when we talk about Louisiana Key Academy being a school that specializes in working with children with dyslexia, that again is another proponent, so that where individuals or children that do not legally qualify as being socioeconomic disadvantaged are being documented as being socioeconomic disadvantaged so that they can take that seat. But a child that really and truly is socioeconomic disadvantaged that has dyslexia is not able to attend and receive those supports. So the problem is not just that we don't have transportation at these schools, but it's about that we don't have real, true accountability, implementation, and enforcement. And that's where the issue comes into play. That we really need to make sure that there's some real, true implementing and enforcing, and making sure that it's not self-reporting, but a real, true process of making sure that each and every school really and truly is providing real factual information. And the way that you can do that is maybe we can have LDOE actually have the ombudsmen come back and actually have them go over to the different schools and be able to check into these things when parents report it. Because I am receiving large numbers of individuals that are socioeconomic disadvantaged, not actually receiving seats at the school. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other board opposition? Having none, the motion passes. Next item.
Next item, 2.4, page 116, consideration of an update report regarding virtual school attendance plans submitted by Virtual Charter Academy and University of U Academy for the 22-23 school year. The recommendation is to receive.
Okay, okay, Dr. Bohe, and then second by Ms. Holloway, Superintendent.
No, that they're in your packet.
Okay, it's in our packet. Are there any board questions? Any opposition to the motion? Having none, the motion does, oh, there is one.
Mr. Finney. Mr. Finney.
You can just sit there and listen.
I wish I could see your screen to see what the item is.
Virtual charter attendance plans. Virtual charter.
Okay, any opposition to this motion? Having done the motion passes, can I please have the next item?
Next item, 129, page 129, 2.5, consideration of report regarding types 2, 4, and 5 charter contracts and requests for amendments. Letter A, First we have Lafayette Renaissance Charter Academy. The recommendation is to approve.
Okay. Can I please have a motion from Ms. Holloway and then a second? Second from Mr. Garvey. Superintendent, would you like to frame this?
No, this is just a request from Lafayette Renaissance Charter operated by CUSA to relocate their high school campus. We recommend approval.
Okay, any opposition to this?
Well, you have cards.
Okay, there are cards. Gary,
McGoffin. I don't see it.
sorry, I don't see.
He left for the night.
He just
Okay.
walked around.
So, okay, and then Dr. James Finney.
Thank you. I'm glad that a material amendment is actually being brought before Bessie, particularly when it involves one of these out-of-state predatory organizations. Watch it carefully, please. Thank you.
Okay, any opposition to this charter amendment? Having done the motion passes. Second part.
Part B, Louisiana Key Academy North Shore. Recommendation is to approve.
Okay, can I please have a motion? Dr. Davis, second by Ms. Holloway. Are there any public comment cards? Are there any board questions or opposition? Okay, having done the motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item, 4.1. 4.1, page 168. Consideration of revisions to bulletin regarding learning pods. The recommendation is to approve as notice of intent, emergency rule for bulletin 126 charter schools and bulletin 741 Louisiana Handbook for School
We need a
Administrators.
motion first.
I move to table this item.
I think do we need a motion first and then we can table or have word?
Yes.
You move to, okay, so the recommendation is to approve and you want to make a substitute.
She wants to make a substitute, so we need a motion.
So you want to make a motion to what?
The table.
She
This
wants to-
item.
she wants to
Table it?
substitute. Yeah, she wants to defer.
Defer.
Defer until,
Table it.
Till, Sandy, till what?
December.
Okay, so do we need to take the first motion in order to do the substitutes and change?
no, somebody can make
Okay,
it.
then we need a second.
Yeah.
We need a second. So there's a motion on the table to defer this item till December, and there's a second. Let's open up for board discussion. Dr. Davis.
Can I ask why we're tabling it? And I guess why are we tabling it besides the late hour, if there is a reason for that? And if it's something more than, or if it's just a late hour, why not move it until October?
I think there needs to be more discussion on this, and there are questions about this.
meaning, is it gonna take us 4 months of questions and discussion? Like, we had a very similar policy that we saw in April that we deferred at the request of the attorney in the back that said we could not, that there was legislation pending. That legislation did not pass, and now we have the policy back before us, and we're trying to table it until December.
There are several questions about the items, but Dr. Bromley, are you good?
Yeah, I mean, we're happy
It's up to
to
you.
get with the individuals who are most involved, interested in this policy, including Ms. Holloway, and see if we can't work out some of the concerns that still exist, and we can do that as quickly as possible. Ms. Holloway.
You're okay with October?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the revision is deferred to October. Is there any opposition to deferring to October?
I don't have any opposition, but I'd just like to know if there's any public opposition, if there's any implications to deferring it that would impact operation of the school or affect children.
No, I don't think so.
I would like to say, though, that this will be another 3 months where the department doesn't know where learning pods are. We don't know what students are attending those learning pods. We don't know if they have all of those school safety provisions in place that we just talked about in our school safety report, and that alarms me. And I do not understand why no one else seems to worry about the fact that we have schools that we're supposed to be supervising, and we don't know where they are educating all of their students.
Okay, thank you. So that's a roll call vote, because I think if you don't want to support deferral, you don't have to. Can we just do a quick roll call on deferring?
Do you have public comment?
Oh, yes, I have many. Okay, here we go. Bridget Nealon. You're next. No, Wave. Lonnie Luce. Wave. Gary McLaughlin has left. No, you're back. Okay, Dr. James Finney.
Thank you. For all the reasons that Dr. Davis mentioned, I believe deferring this is an issue. You need to establish very clearly that charter schools have to operate at the locations where they say they operate. I had an interesting conversation the other day with the person that answered the phone at Red Stick Academy, who told me how much the tuition is for that school that is operated by Charter Schools USA through the Iberville Charter School, whatever that is, and interestingly enough, South Baton Rouge Charter School. So, yeah, I didn't dig deep into it. I don't have a little kid, so I didn't see exactly how the sign-up process was. But something really creepy is going on. And you need to shut it down, and you need to shut it down fast. So now would be a great opportunity. October is a long time away. Be sure, if you do defer this till October, you look at the MFP report that tells you where the Iberville Charter School students come from. And tell me, with your brains engaged, how in the world is somebody sending their kid from Orleans Parish to Plaquemine every day? How are kids sending their kids from St. Tammany Parish to Plaquemine every day? That school is cheating, and it's all on you if you don't fix it, and fix it fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to the motion on this? Okay. Having none, the motion passes. Next item.
That concludes your agenda.
That concludes our agenda. Thank you.